Hello everyone, it's Niz. I've been suffering through a bit of burnout as of late due to the Blightbound video, but I figured it'd be fun to do a mini review series where I go through a bunch of indies and start reviewing them in bits that aren't as long but are still fairly detailed. This will allow me to review things that...
Yo, what's up?
Oh, what the... Toasty, how'd you get here?
I've always been here.
What?
I've always been here.
Oh my god. You're right.
Hey, does Raze count as an indie?
I mean, I'm willing to count it.
You want to talk about Raze 2 weapons?
Hell yeah! Alright, so, what do you have in mind?
Well, I just happen to have this Raze 2 weapons tier list set up. And these Raze suits.
How do you set this all up? You just got here.
Don't ask questions.
Alright.
Especially ones you're not prepared to hear the answer for.
Alright, let's just talk about Race 2, okay? I happen to... Where did I get this paper? Okay, So I have everything prepared somehow, and I'm ready to talk about Race 2.
Yes, and I think we should first, of course, go over the stock weapons in the game. Because, you know, it's what you start out with, so I think every other weapon should be compared to them. But what if people don't know about Raze? Should you explain it?
Well, Race 2 was a Flash game that was released by Sky9 by Justin and Addison. They've made quite a few games with Sky9, most of them being shooters. They had Sieges as well, and Knight's Quest, I think, was an RPG maker before it became like a major thing. They went off the radar for a while, but we could probably talk about some of that other stuff later. What's important now is Race 2, which came out about a decade ago, and it was one of the most revolutionary Flash shooters that was on every kid's computer at school when you type in HTTPS and fire up that hotspot shield.
I would be shocked if, honestly, any school kid from America does not remember this game in computer lab.
Yeah. You had cool math up in your tab so the teacher wouldn't get upset when you're passing by?
Honestly, it's probably one of the sole reasons they have those blockers now.
But yeah, Race 2 was quite possibly one of the best games they've made, along with Strikeforce Heroes 1.
You know, maybe later we'll do a tier list on the Sky9 games. Foreshadowing.
I'd like that. So,
where do we start?
Well, I mean, if we're going down the list, I'm going to start with the M9 Barrett. This thing is going to go ahead and go into B tier. It's pretty high up there for a pistol. The pistols aren't very strong because they're your starter weapon. They get a lot of ammo, and they're alright for a set-off. And the M9 is pretty much the most reliable form of damage from a decent amount of range and also hit scan. This allows it to be a means of killing off enemies that spawn on you while you have your force field up, and still do it from a reasonable range. And for that, I think it deserves to be in a B, despite the fact it doesn't really get any critical bonuses except for crotch shots, which makes me question why it's given to recruits so often. Is there a connection?
Yes.
Also,
you see an alien, you tell me when shooting the dick first.
I would usually.
It's a solid guess.
I'd shoot in the back because combat evolved, and this pistol kind of reminds me of the Halo 1 pistol.
That is true.
All right. So second. So second, we have the Uzi. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see here. Uzi. Oh yeah, right. D tier. The Uzi. It has really, really bad fluctuating accuracy. It anywhere past 1/3 of the screen, and it'll start missing violently. Its damage output is really weak, and because of all of this, it's very difficult to get like critical shots on, and it also has terrible range. And that's why I'm gonna go ahead and put it in D tier.
One of the themes you might notice is weapons without range kind of blow.
That's gonna be a recurring theme because a lot of the effectiveness in Raze and most Sky 9 shooters, not just Strike Force heroes. Uh, Having range gives you just such an advantage because the enemy are less likely to counteract you by shooting you in the face.
So, I guess the third one's going to be the shotgun then.
That would appear so. The shotgun. Let's see. I'm gonna go with C. The shotgun is a well-rounded weapon. Although it lacks range, which is a major weakness, it is a very good passing by weapon. If you're running past an enemy, maybe you respawn and you pick it up immediately before your force field just depletes. You can easily kill somebody with 2 hits on this. It's very good for running past enemies in around melee range. And it's very good for just hitting somebody when you're passing by from a jump pad.
Especially if the enemy has a weapon that isn't really good at close range as well, so you can just run by and shoot them.
Yeah, it's one of the few good close quarter solutions.
So, the fourth one is the assault rifle, the stock one, and honestly, I feel like the assault rifle is the most average weapon in the game. I think it's the best weapon to put it against other weapons. It has decent DPS, it has decent range, and it has decent accuracy. It's nothing special, but that's why it should go in the C tier, because it's just average.
It's a very standard gun. Great benchmark, at least.
Alright, so number 5, we got the sniper rifles, and the 50 cal particularly, and I'd say 50 cal is B tier.
Oh.
50 cal is a solid B tier weapon. It has its advantages, of course, of range, which is very good. Shooting enemies off screen is one of the best strategies to not die in Raze. Counting the game is very bursty, and it has a lot of shot. It has 4 shots in it, and you can rapidly shoot them off. So it is a very alright weapon. I think it is a 2 to 3 shot, depending on where you hit. The main drawback, of course, with the 50 cal is that there are just better sniper rifles in the game. So even though it's not bad, it still gets outshined by the other sniper rifles.
Like any gun that has a high base damage and a headshot multiplier increase, it's already great. It's just there's surprisingly good sniper rifles in here, which, come to think of it, is not that surprising when you factor in just how powerful long range weapons are in this game.
So overall, it's a B tier weapon. It's not terrible, but it's pretty good.
Have you noticed how exaggerated the scope is? I haven't noticed until I've gotten the image so close up.
It must really have a lot of zoom to it. It's a big magnification. Bigger lens means more magnification. Anyways, so the next one will be the laser minigun. And laser minigun, not a B tier weapon.
Alright.
So the main advantage of the laser minigun is if you get actually really close, the thing shreds. It is disgusting at close range. And if you can get the rapid fire upgrade, it melts things. But that's the problem. You don't want to get close in raids, for the most part. You want to keep your distance, because enemies will tend to melt you faster, especially on the harder AIs and the harder difficulties when you get to the alien campaign, where the enemies are just straight up buffed and they do more damage, so they can just out-shred you. So that major disadvantage means the minigun is more of a B-tier weapon, so even though it does have a very strong suit close range, again, range is very important, and laser minigun just doesn't have it. It's too inaccurate.
I think it's alright for picking off really low people, but I do want to point out that the attack speed bonus is really good, and some people might think, hey, why don't I get the one that reduces the spread? I've tested it out myself. I have seen little to no difference. It's not something I would invest in.
So, we get to number 7, the stock rocket launcher.
Yes, my controversial and bold take, S tier. The stock rocket launcher it does so much damage. It has quality range, and it has a good amount of ammo for the amount of damage it dishes out. And because of that, it can typically one-shot normal enemies, if they're not armored up. And that allows them to not counteract with anything like static field or emergency heal, which makes it even more powerful. And then there's the fact that it just pops off really hard if you have the rapid fire power up. This thing is just
invincibility.
And one of the drawbacks might be that it's a projectile, so it has to travel, but the travel speed is so high that you barely have to lead it. There's
Honestly, most projectile weapons in the games, because of the nature of the projectile, means that they have basically infinite range if you like are able to arc it enough, if it's flying fast enough. And the rocket launcher is definitely one of those weapons.
yeah, it's
You
straight
can fire
shoots.
across maps. It's basically straight shooting, very fast. Really, the only downside to the rocket launcher is that damage also applies to you. So if you try to shoot an enemy with close range, especially if they spawn and have that invincibility shield, you just kill yourself. But other than that, rocket launcher is probably the best weapon in the game.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So I guess we go into now just the individual tiers to see how they compare to their stock counterparts. And we start out with the... Oh no. We start out with the plasma pistol. Oh boy. The plasma pistol is F tier. Spike that shit.
First F tier.
It's garbage. So the plasma pistol's main advantage is it has a homing projectile. Except for homing is useless in Raze. It's not that hard, honestly, to hit shots, at least in the body. And the plasma pistol's homing projectiles means it's not very useful. They're very slow. They have one of the lowest ranges in the entire game, despite the fact it is a projectile. It has one of the lowest ranges in the game, so you're not going to hit anything. And its damage is pitiful. You cannot kill someone with that. If you can kill someone with the plasma pistol, I'll be shocked. It is a horrible weapon, probably the worst in the game.
I want to point out that this is a recurring theme with a lot of the homing weapons, if not all of them. They sacrifice damage to be able to home, and also their projectile speed gets drastically decreased. And that ironically ends up with them sometimes missing.
Or just being straight worse.
It's kind of funny.
Well, at least it's out of the way. Next weapon we got is the Ripper. Ripper is a C tier. So Ripper has the one advantage of when you spawn with it and you have the invincibility shield, it can melt fairly close range. So while you have the invincibility shield, even though range is very important and Ripper does not have range, because it's the spawning weapon and you spawn with invincibility, you can run up to people and quickly gun them down if they're like right in front of your face. And I really think it's the only advantage to the Ripper. Other than that, the Barrette just outclasses it in every other way. It has more DPS, more range. And the Ripper really, just really has an advantage. If you just spawn with it and get close to them, you can kill people. But that's about it. But that's something, because the pistols are really only useful till you find another weapon. So it has that niche going for it. So it's C tier.
All right. Well, what we got here is a...
Boy.
Okay. So, the Golden Mauser, the entire point of it is that you have less damage, less range, it's not very accurate, and if you kill someone with it, it's so embarrassing, you get more credits.
It's at least D tier, though.
No, it's not. Like, the Golden Mauser gives you 2 credits on kill, and is worth 650 credits. It's the cheapest weapon in the game, but you have to get 325 kills to even get your benefit from it. And to get those kills effectively, because the Golden Mauser is shit, because you can't get through range.
Yeah, but it is at least better than the plasma pistol.
I'll put it higher F. I won't even say high F, just above the plasma pistol. Because the Golden Mauser can still kill. But the thing is, it
has
is
the same range. I mean, it has the same damage as a plasma pistol, except for, of course, it fires faster and has more range.
This is probably the biggest scam I've ever witnessed and been a part of. Other than no, not even when I was first starting out TF2. I've been scammed so hard.
Scientology?
Look, we don't talk about my Scientology days.
Okay.
Anyway, the Magnum. I think Magnum's S.
Magnum's easily S. It is the pocket backup weapon.
I think it's just, the more I've been using it, the more I've been like, man, this just feels like a better 50 cal.
It is. It literally does nearly the same damage as a 50 cal.
And its headshot bonuses, ooh.
It is a 2 to 3 shot with the headshots and 4 shots with the body shot. And because of its fire rate, you can just pop it out and then fire 4 shots in quick succession, taking an enemy out.
Yep.
Now, the main drawback for the weapon was that it has little ammo, right? But that's the thing, though. It's a holdout weapon. you use it when you run out of ammo with your other weapons. So that factor really just doesn't compute.
It's just so good. It's being able to hit people off screen and get all that headshot bonus. It just makes it like a really great sidearm and a good weapon in general compared to its other actual weapons. It's impressive.
All right.
Um, let's see
Burst
here.
torch.
Burst torch. Burst torch. Burst torch. Burst torch. Oh, it's blast torch. C.
Ah,
I think
C.
C. It's like I think it's pretty okay. It's like it's a projectile. It's a fast projectile, so you don't have to worry about that. It does little damage, but like it has the fire onto it, so you can add on to the you can stack the damage onto itself. I think if you want fire effect on any weapon, it should be something with a low continuous damage, because fire has a very short duration and damage amount, so just a little extra DPS. Uh, with its range and firing straight forward, it's good for hallways. I think it's okay for plinking off people, but it's nowhere near as good as, say, the Magnum.
Yeah, really is one disadvantage of these weapons. You could just take the Magnum. So,
Yeah.
what's next?
Oh, hey you, the Photon Blaster.
Ooh, sounds like you have history with it.
Well, before we started, like just briefly before like we started this, and none of this was scripted. I had to test this out because I don't remember even touching this in my childhood. And I'll be honest, there are a few weapons like that here, and I think this is the one I can most confidently say I was not missing out. It fires 3 shots at once, and all of them do basically no damage. And they split out so much that you can't get like a headshot with all 3. So you can probably only get a headshot with 1, so that damage multiplier falls off as well. It's just so painfully unimpressive in its damage output that the thing it advertises is pretty much pointless. Its range is meh, and frankly, you're just better off just using like the M9 at that point.
So, what'd you put it at?
I say
D
D.
tier. All right, D tier. So, the weapon I thought was kind of cool when I was younger. The Vamp Charge. Ooh.
Fuck you, Vamp Charger. I'm so mad at this thing. Okay, the Vamp Charger. It costs 3 health to fire. Gives you 6 health back, so you get like a gain in 3. Good stuff, right? Nice. Thing is, Sky 9 shooters, I think like just flash 2D side-scrolling shooters in general have really short times to kill. So getting that health back ends up not being nearly as relevant as it should be. This gun does increased self-damage when you get the ×2 damage upgrade. It gives more lifesteal, but you're also burning more health if you miss. It has a high arcing effect and low range. Now, I'll be fair, you're not going to fire this thing off screen in case you'd miss, but the fact that you can't really do anything with it or chase anybody with it makes it even more difficult to utilize, because you have to be in mid-range to fire it and lose health because people are shooting you.
I mean, the idea of it is that, you can pull this out to get your some health back. But that's the thing, though. You're literally using health before you can hit the target. Health that you don't have time to spare.
And it gets worse somehow, because with the rapid fire power-up, it still burns health to fire. And then, as if all that wasn't bad enough, it still uses ammo. You have to reload it. Why? Why?
So not only does it use health as an ammo, it uses itself as an ammo. Oh.
I don't know what they were thinking with this.
I don't think they were. I think they just saw a cool health gun. Had to give zombies something, I guess.
Yeah. Let's see. We're on to shotguns.
Yes.
All right. So we have
The plasma shot.
the plasma shot. this one might be one of my more like inoffensive takes. I think plasma shot is like C.
Yeah.
Like it's. I feel like it's side grade to the shotgun because it does have better range, but it's still like half screen range almost, even with the spiral chamber, and it doesn't scatter much, so you can't consistently land on it. Unlike the Photon Blaster, like, but the damage output isn't amazing, so it has a high fire rate, and that also means that bots have more time to react in between shots than you would with a regular shotgun. I just think it's a weird side grade for something that's meh.
Yeah, so not really fitting any role in the sandbox. Well, the next one is a Zapper.
I actually do have a slightly hard take about this one. The Zapper's better than I thought. And I've used the Zapper a few times, like in Raze 2, and I immediately dropped it. And the reason I did that was, at the minimum range, the damage is nothing. You're tickling them. But when you get up close, it increases drastically. And the problem, as you would probably guess already, is that you have to get up close to deal that damage. And so I was thinking to myself, is there any way to make this more viable? And this is probably one of the best guns to get the range bonus on, because it increases the range, but also increases the amount of range. Well, increases the amount of range that you have, as well as changing the required range to deal that increased damage. So you don't have to get as close. And that is really, really handy for like passing by an enemy and doing a bunch of damage without having to burst in a specific area, and you're not doing any self damage to yourself as well. It's really nice. I feel like it's. Yeah, I almost brought flamethrower. We'll get to that though. The only downsides I think to it are that it's still close range, which I mean, not very good. It's it has a lot of ammo. It has the same amount of ammo as the laser minigun, but it goes through it way faster. So you're gonna end up having to reload, and you're gonna burn ammo a lot. But it has a really good damage output. So I think it's higher mediocre.
All right. Oh boy, everyone's favorite childhood weapon, the Terminator.
Every time I hear about the Terminator, I hear about, oh my god, this is the thing I grew up with. This is the coolest thing ever. And I tend to agree. I love the Terminator. Which is why I have to, with a heavy part, put it in B. Above Zapper, but in B. Actually. Yeah, there we go. It has little spread and pretty good, really good range for a shotgun overall. But the problem is
not the best range, but
the damage output isn't amazing. Your attack speed is nothing to write home about. But it does do a solid, like, consistent amount of damage. It's a very solid gun. Better than mediocre, better than assault rifle, but it's not as good as it looks and as it's made out to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of tragic, really. But what can you do? Oh, next, it's a particle cannon.
Funny enough, the particle cannon I didn't like aesthetically because it was just the shotgun, but just changed up a little, and I thought the Terminator was way cooler. But I would argue that the particle cannon is S tier.
I say it's the second best weapon in the game, honestly. Better Magnum.
This is because I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier, but bounce effect is what homing wants to be, but way better. Bounce allows you to bounce off of surfaces and its particles and all that stuff, and that gives it so much more range, so much more maneuverability. You can hit enemies around corners that they don't see you. You can hit them across the map. And these particles will linger on the ground that they can walk past and deal damage itself. There is just so much utility and power that comes with this gun when you have map control. It is insane. And even when you don't, its damage output is still pretty high, allowing it to be usable in normal scenarios.
One of the main ways to fight enemies in Raze, especially on higher difficulties, is one of two things. Either shoot them behind corners where they can't shoot you, or shoot them out of range so they can't shoot you. Because again, the AI cheats. It has
Yeah,
way more damage,
absolutely.
so they will outburst you. So you have to shoot them before they can shoot you, and that's why Park Cannon is so good. It is by far the best weapon for indirect fire. It's insane,
I love it.
and it still does a ton of damage.
Yeah. All right. So I think this is more your field.
Oh god. All right. So for the second assault rifle, we got the bubble blaster. Well, it's a homing weapon,
Oh
so
boy,
we already know where homing weapons go.
in the
All right,
trash.
throw in that F tier. So I'd say it's the best F tier gun out of them all, but its damage is pitiful. It does the damage of like pistols, despite the fact that it's assault rifle, and its homing is garbage. Again, it barely works. And again, there's just no point in using it. A lot of the other assault rifles are just way better. Why use the bubble blaster? There's just no point. It's a garbage weapon, has garbage damage, and if you literally get double damage, then it feels like a normal damage that it should be doing. You have to double its damage for it to feel normal. So it is a bad weapon. F tier. Get out of here.
I want to point something out, and that like I don't understand why they put a homing weapon on something that's like mid range and fully automatic. Like,
Makes no sense.
why?
The only good thing about it is you hope that the enemy has it so that you can just get easy kills.
Oh,
Next is the pulse rifle, if I remember correctly. Yeah, precision laser, my bad.
the precision laser! I love this thing.
So the precision laser, I'm gonna have to hit something tragic. So I love the precision laser, but it is a B tier weapon.
You're gonna have to explain yourself. Say cycling.
All right. So the main issue with the precision laser, while it is not a bad gun, and is again, it has the advantage of having good range, which is something we want. The main issue, it is a headshot based weapon that you have to track with, right? So tracking in Raze is very hard. It's easy to get flick shots and get headshots and stuff like that, but tracking an enemy's head is a lot harder than something like Strike Force Heroes. And the precision laser requires that though. For it to do like the damage that it advertises, you have to get headshots with it. And while this is a very good spam gun for sitting outside of range and shooting, there are so many better options. You want a spam gun for outside of range, use a sniper rifles, use literally anything else. It tries to fill a role that it doesn't need to fill because other weapons fill it. So while it's not terrible, it's still very solid. It's one of the better B tier weapons. It just has its role taken by other weapons. It's just not really needed.
Now I do have a counter argument for this. It is the Xbox gun, so it is a favorite from Sniper X Killer.
That is true, but we're not Sniper X Killer. We can never hope to be that good.
God, I wish I could be that good. Oh, the Hailstorm.
Hailstorm. All right. So this might not be very controversial. Hailstorm's D tier.
Oh no.
Oh no. So the Hailstorm's main advantage is that again, indirect fire is very solid, and the Hailstorm has somewhat useful indirect fire. It's not very good. It's not nowhere near the same thing as a particle cannon, but its indirect fire is all right. But it does the same damage as the bubble blaster, which is garbage, of course. But the main advantage, though, is the Hailstorm has so much ammo in that indirect fire. It's still more useful than the bubble blaster. But that doesn't mean it's good.
I've actually done testing.
Do enough damage.
I've actually done testing with this thing, and I have noticed that with Spiral Chamber, the thing that increases range, I think it applies to all particle weapons, but it doesn't increase the range, which would have been like, I think it wouldn't have been a saving grace, but it might have moved it up to high D and low C. Just like, yeah, the damage is so bad.
It's just not good. Now, of course, get to the last weapon, which is the Assault Bouncer, if I remember correctly. Yes, S tier. Assault Bouncer, like the particle cannon. Again, it fires the same particles as particle cannons, but does more damage. So the Assault Bouncer has some insane DPS. It has some of the best DPS in the game. It might be the second or third best DPS weapon in the game. And again, of course, it can somewhat indirect fire, but not nearly as effective as the particle cannon. And if the enemy's running towards you, which in Raze, enemies love to run towards you to get close so they can just burst you down, it shreds. It's insane. But, of course, the main drawback is, I don't know, really. There isn't much of a drawback. I mean, it doesn't have the instant kill burst potential of other guns. It's probably the best, I'd say it's the best damage weapon that does, consistent damage. that you can like reliably not burst people down with. Because the other weapons have very bursty damage. The Assault Bouncer does not. See, the Magnum's still better than the Assault Bouncer, but I'd say it's still an S tier weapon. It is a good choice to have.
I'm gonna say Assault Bouncer is definitely one of those items I didn't use as a kid, and I was genuinely shocked by the damage output of it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it'd do a lot of damage, but I think it 3 to 4 shots an enemy.
Yeah, no, it
And
hits
and
hard.
it fires pretty quickly, so it kills around a second, which is a good number to be at.
Another thing worth pointing out, I think it has a lower fire rate to other assault rifles, so it's pretty easy to get headshots on it. Like,
All right.
Oh.
So finally, we get to maybe actually fill out this A tier, and we get the Railgun. So again, the snipers in general are really good, just because again they can shoot out range. And the Railgun, I feel like personally, is the second best or third best sniper rifle in the game. So the main advantage of the Railgun over the the 50 cal, the 50 cal, is that it does similar damage, but the Railgun does pen. It penetrates through targets instead of targets. Now this may not seem super useful as a bonus for it losing, I think, one like ammo compared to the 50 cal, but trust me, you can get easily multi-kills with this gun because enemies do like to clump up together and like gang up on you, and this just shreds them. You can easily get 6Ks with this gun on the right maps. So I really do think the Railgun is A tier. It is a 2-shot if you get headshots, it's a 3-shot if you get body shots, and yeah, again, it's just a good weapon all around. Next, we have probably the most controversial weapon on this tier list. The Pulsator. The Pulsator is a weapon that looks so unassuming. It doesn't look like it'd be good. But the Pulsator is easily S tier. It is the second best weapon in the game, I believe. Maybe other than, of course, arguably the particle cannon. So, you wouldn't think this gun is so good. Because, again, it just doesn't look very assuming. It has 5 shots in the mag, but it 2-shots enemies.
When he told me this, I was just thinking to myself, like, Toasty doesn't lie to me, but I feel like he's fucking around with this. This is a meme or something. And I took it into a match and immediately one-tapped the first enemy I saw.
It's a 1-shot headshot. It's a particle projectile. It's a projectile weapon. But it has such a fast and low arc. Again, it's the same thing where it doesn't really matter if it's a projectile weapon. You can spam. It is the best spam weapon in the game. You can spam on the side of a corner and just keep firing shots, and you will get kills with this thing out of range. Because, again, it doesn't have a stopping point. It just keeps going.
You could easily pop people
by
off screen.
far, it is the best sniper rifle in the game. And that may be a bit controversial because a lot of people don't use this gun. I was shocked when I used it. It was the last sniper rifle I bought, and I didn't think anything of it. But when I used this thing, oh my goodness gracious, it was so good. So it is easily an S tier weapon. And finally, it's not finally with sniper rifles, we get the Holy Grail, and this one's going to be again our controversial take. Holy Grail's A tier.
Oh.
So a lot of people really like the Holy Grail because again, we've talked a lot about how bursting is important, and the Holy Grail's a 1-shot for most enemies. So why wouldn't you like it? Well, if they're shielded, it's not a 1-shot anymore. And if you get a headshot, it is, but if they're shielded, it's not a 1-shot anymore. And again, the main advantage of sniper rifles is that you can spam off screen and kill people with it, but it only has 1 shot in its magazine, and then you have to do a fairly long reload. So if you either miss that shot, or you're trying to kill more than one enemy, you will just get killed. The Holy Grail, honestly, is not the best weapon in the game. However, there is one saving grace for Holy Grail, and specifically you play with it. If you treat the Holy Grail not as a sniper rifle that you use constantly, but as a backup weapon when your main weapon, like the rocket launcher, basically runs out of ammo, the Holy Grail will be your best friend. You can swap to it in 1 shot most enemies in the game. Just like that. Very quick.
I think it's...
So, and then you can reload it later when, you have the safety to do so. So, I think the Holy Grail, while not garbage, while really good, still has the main limitation of the Pulsar is just better.
I think it might be a good combo into a grenade if that's your thing, but like, I like the Holy Grail. Yeah,
so it's an A tier weapon. I just can't put it S tier because the Pulsator's already there, and the Pulsator is just a better choice. But if your playstyle is you use other weapons, like you depend on them, like if you're like a rocket launcher guy and you love to just spam it like I do, then the Holy Grail can still be your best friend. You can still whip it out and get an easy one shot. So now, oh goodness, all right, we get the Electro Bolt. Electro Bolt is not good. Again, the sniper rifles have some very strong contenders in this game because again, their main like advantages. But Electro Bolt C tier. So what saves it from being in something like D tier or something like that is that it's still a long range sniper rifle, and those are still good. Again, sniper rifles in general game are just really good. But the main advantage of Electro Bolt, which is that when you hit a target, you can then hit other targets with it through walls, stuff like that. It doesn't do enough damage. It's not nearly enough damage. Unlike something like the Railgun, where you can easily deal like a third to half their health with one shot if you pen, the Electro Bolt just doesn't do that. It may do like a fourth of their health. It's just not that useful. And there's just way better alternatives because literally the 50 cal is more accurate and shoots more and has more ammo. It has fast fire rate. The Railgun does that. The Holy Grail, of course, one shots, and the Pulsar, is just better. So in the end, I don't think the Electro Bolt is very good.
We're not going to get any arguments from me about that.
Now we get to the 6th tier, the heavy weapon slot. It's not explosive, and we get the worst weapon in the game by far, like undoubtedly, even worse than something like the plasma pistol. Because at least with the plasma pistol, you're only wasting your first weapon slot. You're wasting your heavy weapon slot by taking the shredder, and the shredder is awful. So the shredder's easy after. Just put that thing in after. Get that thing out of here. So the main gimmick of the shredder is it's a very short range. It's not super short, but it's fairly short range, about the range of shotgun weapon that has the ability to burrow through walls and floors, and it does double damage if you burrow through it. The weapon's already a 4-shot to kill weapon, so you can make it a 2-shot if you penetrate it through walls. But first, you're not really ever going to use it because the penetration when it digs through is so slow. They're going to easily be out of your range by then. I don't think I've ever died to the shredder once when enemies used it. I don't think I've ever gotten a kill from burrowing because it just never happens because it just doesn't move fast enough and doesn't do enough damage for it to be worth it. If this thing was a 2-shot weapon where you still have to get close to enemies, but you can hit 2 shots on it and then 1-shot people if you burrow it, maybe it'd be more useful, but it doesn't. It's too low damage and the gimmick is utterly useless. It's probably the most useless gimmick in the game. I would rather have homing projectiles than this very slow, awful burrowing. Because even though indirect fire is great, and you think that this weapon being able to indirect fire would be good, it's too slow for it to ever be used.
I think that's a hot take, but I can't disagree with that. Like, homing, I don't like it, but like I can ignore it. You can't really ignore the burrowing effect.
Yeah, you have to actively go out of your way to try to use the burrowing effect, which you will never get off. So, like, why use it? So, next is the Focus Beam. And I will not lie, Focus Beam's A tier.
No.
So, Focus Beam does not have the DPS of a lot of the other heavies. Like, the Destroyer has more DPS. The Minigun has more DPS. However, those weapons are limited by range or line of sight, stuff like that. But the Focus Beam is by far the best weapon for consistent killing. It kills in around 1 second to 2 seconds, depends. And the Focus Beam is good at close range, it's good at medium range, it's good at long range. It's good at every range. And there's not many other weapons like that are good at every range. And that's why I like it so much. Like, especially if you're trying to finish enemies off, it's a great finisher weapon because you switch to it and you start doing instant damage. So I think the Focus Beam is an A tier weapon. It's not S tier in any way. It's lower A tier, but it's still it's good. All right, next is the Destroyer. Destroyer is a very cool weapon, very very cool, and one of my favorites from Strike Force. Raze 1. But I would not say Destroyer is super high tier. I'd say Destroyer is C tier or B tier. It depends. What would you say, C tier or B tier? Yes.
I haven't used the destroyer a lot myself. I would say it could compete with the laser minigun.
Actually, I'd say it's B tier. I do believe it's B
Bet.
tier because it doesn't run the same DPS as a stock assault rifle, and again, it kills around 4 shots. So doom, 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 doom. But unlike the focus beam, which is literally a constant beam of damage, it's instant. It's always out. The destroyer is just the focus beam, but fires individual shots. And to be fair, you can headshot with the destroyer's beams, unlike the focus cannon. I mean, the focus beam. But the destroyer it's harder to get headshots off with the weapon. Kind of, again, it has the same issue with the precision laser where you have to track targets to try to get those headshots on with it. Because, it's still fast. It fires fast enough still that you can't just click and shoot. You want to hold it down. And, again, I just think it's good, but it's not super remarkable. And lastly, we got the flamethrower. And, this one's going to hurt.
I'm sorry.
The flamethrower is as a kid, I fucking loved the idea of the flamethrower. And it's expensive, so, I always would grind for it, and I always wanted it. And the flamethrower seems so cool. And there's a particular mission in the game. Let me get the name of the mission real quick. Sweep and Clear, where you actually get the flamethrower at base. But that flamethrower is not the same as the one you have. That flamethrower is buffed. Because this flamethrower is trash. It's not F tier. I will only save it from F tier because at least it's usable. But barely. So the idea of a flamethrower is that you can shred targets close range. You would just obliterate them. And to be fair, it kind of does. It doesn't, and it's really good at killing groups of enemies. It is D tier, but it's really good at killing groups of enemies. It's like a focus beam that could kill groups of enemies, not as much range. But there's one major disadvantage of flamethrower. It can burn yourself. You will kill yourself more than you kill the enemies with a flamethrower, and that's its major disadvantage. You can't use it at close range, because when enemies are running up to you, which again, in Raze, the enemies love to rush you, you will start burning yourself and doing more damage, because not only are you doing damage to yourself, you're doing the enemies doing damage to you. And you will just burn yourself to death so often. It's tragic. If there was no self-burn damage, the flamethrower would probably be B to A tier. It wouldn't be nearly as bad. But because the fact that you can kill yourself with it way more than you kill the enemy, it just has to be D tier. But the ability to kill multiple enemies, which is really one of the few weapons that can do that, it saves it from being F tier. It's also cool, and the child inside me that wants to burn things is still there. All right. Get to the big boys.
Alrighty. The ion cannon. I think that the ion cannon is an A tier weapon. A lot of people might think that the ion cannon is comparable or even better than the rocket launcher. I've been working with it a lot, and I can see why people think that. It's hit scan, it's very long range, pretty powerful. It can 2-shot kill, and it's got enough ammo to kill 3 people like the rocket launcher. The thing is,
and if the enemy's shielded, it can technically kill more enemies than the rocket launcher because it's a 3-shot to kill with the railgun if they're shielded.
It's also
a rocket can only kill 1 guy if they're shielded.
Yeah,
the ion cannon can kill 2.
And in its defense, it's also a decent finisher for somebody who's low but not incredibly low. But the thing is, the advantages the ion cannon have aren't enough to outweigh the fact that if it 2-hit kills, bots tend to static field or use emergency heal, making it more difficult and take longer to kill them. Yes, it can be pretty effective for killing people off screen, but the rocket launcher just has so much more potential in burst damage and a lower time to kill.
And can also kill enemies off screen.
While the ion cannon, frankly, it still got the self-damage. It has the fire effect, which honestly is kind of redundant with the amount of damage it deals. And overall, the ion cannon has these bells and whistles to it that the rocket launcher doesn't need.
I feel like the hype around the ion cannon solely comes from the fact that in the campaign, almost all the humans use it in the campaign. And holy shit, because the AI are buffed, the ion cannon one-shots in the campaign. and they will flick shot you and then obliterate you once you get in range because that's such long range. So I feel like a lot of the hype around the ion cannon comes from the fact that the AI, when they have an ion cannon, you cry. You're just dead. They will obliterate you. But in the hands of the player, not nearly as good.
I feel like another part of it is that's hit scan instead of like being a projectile. But like, if anybody out there is like thinking that makes a difference for something like the rocket launcher, I want you to look at me, not the Rantsona. Put the Rantsona down for a second and look at me, just the person. I believe in you. You don't need hit scan. This game has been out so long that it could start going to middle school if it was a person. You've been playing this long. You are not a game journalist. Okay.
You can hit projectiles. I believe in you.
That was not patronizing. That was genuine.
The rockets are super fast. Trust me. You can hit it. You don't need to be a TF2 Soldier Main, UGC, Platinum, Sixes Roamer to be able to hit rockets.
You don't need to play Gunshot Bride every impact. You've got this. Grenade launcher. I think it's D tier. I think it's slightly higher than flamethrower because it's got more range.
So that's a bit weird because honestly, the grenade launcher also ends up killing me a lot. So what do you think makes it D tier?
Now, despite, well, I'm gonna be real with you. The grenade launcher kills me as well, but one of the few things I think's redeeming it from being an F tier, because like it takes a lot of grenades to kill somebody, and the delay means that enemies will often counter it with stack field. What saves it is that it has one quality that few weapons have in the game, and that make it.
A single other weapon has actually.
I think does Railgun?
No.
Really?
Oh wait, no, Railgun does penetrate. Yeah,
no,
so
right.
Technically.
That quality is something that's been memed to death in every comment section in every Sky 9 game, and that is that bodies make great meat shields. The grenade launcher can bypass that by launching the bodies towards the enemy and blowing them up. And it's actually kind of fun. Hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty funny. Despite this, like, it's not that good because it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. And when you fire a bunch of grenades on somebody, they tend to run towards you. Which fucks with. I'm not gonna cut that out. Ice Hunter. Ice Hunter is better than the grenade launcher, but only a little. I'd say it's C tier.
C tier, respectable.
The Ice Hunter has like a lot of properties that the rocket launcher does, but it has way less damage and fires faster. But it has a lower projectile speed because you guessed it, it's homing.
Now, of all the homing weapons, I'd say the Ice Hunter is the best of the homing weapons.
I think that's solely because it's an explosive.
Yes, but that's just because, again, it's a heavy weapon, so like it's gonna have an advantage, or explosive weapon.
So
but, you're missing the rocket launcher with it.
Yeah, you're doing an okay amount of damage, but you're sacrificing like just infinitely superior options. And also, I've still missed with the Ice Hunter because it's so slow.
Like, the only reason you might want it is because, again, you can shoot people off screen. And this is really emphasized in the mission Rocket Race, which is the second last alien mission. But you get a modified version of the Ice Hunter. You get Frozen Death, which are not the same weapon. It just kind of highlight the advantages of the Ice Hunter.
I will point out its homing is really good. It like can do a 90-degree turn over a wall, which is like some awesome nuts level freaking homing. It's just particles are just generally better.
You have more control.
Yeah. Now we go on to the Ice Hound. Acid Hound. Now I know I called it the British gun. Let's see here. Acid Hound.
Don't come to Glasgow. Don't come. He'll fuck you up.
I'm sure our viewers will appreciate that. Don't worry about it. I've been weighing it up because of like a few qualities on it, and honestly, I think I don't have it on the list, or I'm missing it. But I think it's like C to D tier.
I think it's D tier.
I'd say D, because like it has very low range. It's like I think it's got the same arc as the grenade launcher. It being instant helps, but it burns through like the high amount of ammo it does quickly. Uh, once uh once you kill somebody with it, as blast tends to do, it sends them flying. So you have to wait for them to get out of the way before you can kill the next guy. Because I don't think the AoE is that good. Um, because of its arc, it's very difficult to get kills from any direction. You usually have to be above them. And it's just generally not that powerful. It's not a whole lot to talk about with it. It's a very simple gun with no like special features to it. It's just kind of bland and not strong.
All right. Well, the last one, the credit cannon, which has a caveat because it really sits in two different tiers.
The credit cannon's a really weird one for me. Naturally, as a kid, I never got it because I was just thinking to myself, why would I use a gun that burns credits and is also incredibly expensive?
Now, it's expensive.
Yeah. Now, credit cannon is obviously, with its qualities, an end-game weapon. And so you would assume it would be like really powerful because of it. Not really.
I mean, it's fairly powerful, but it's not super burst.
It's not terrible. I would say it's high B to low A. And the reason for that... Go ahead.
No.
Alright. I'm taking stage for this. The credit cannon, it burns like 4 credits per shot. And that's pretty alright. If you like get headshot kills, you'll probably go even on cash. It fires off screen. It has a pretty solid fire rate. It does a decent amount of damage. I think it's 3 to 4 shot to kill if you're not head shooting. I think 2 kill on a headshot. And overall,
you also have to reload with it, which is probably its biggest advantage, is that
it
does some decent damage, but you don't have to reload.
It doesn't reload, and as long as you have credits, you have ammo. So you don't have to pick up more of it like the Vamp Charger. It's basically everything the Vamp Charger should have been, but with credits, which also makes it better because you're not working with health. So
but again, its main drawback is, of course, it's only good if you have credits. If you don't have a lot of credits, well then,
yeah. And one other hilarious quality to it, which makes it also infinitely better than the Vamp Charger, is if you have rapid fire, it no longer costs credits to fire during the power-up. Which is amazing.
And it fires fast.
Yeah, it just throws them out. It's great. So
in the end, I'd say credit cannon's A tier. If you don't have credits, then it's F tier because there's so much better stuff you can save up for. You can get literally all the other S tier weapons, stuff like that beforehand.
But if you have
the credits to spend, especially if you're trying to fight Raze Soldier in the final boss, where he has like 800 health, so you need a lot of damage to take him out.
I have never spoken to Justin directly about this, but I feel like the Vamp Charger was made like early in development, and credit cannon was near the end because it has all the changes that would make the Vamp Charger viable.
But yeah, that's everything. That's the list.
Nice.
I'm sure everyone will agree with it.
Of course. Everybody agrees with tier lists.
All right, well, that's the weapons tier list done, but I think we should do a lightning round on abilities and equipment, just real quick.
Oh, that's funny, because I just happened to bring up the abilities list. Don't worry that I don't have them all purchased. I have used all of these at some point in the game.
Yeah, sadly, a lot of websites shut down, so we have to use Flashpoint.
Yeah. At least I get to keep my data.
Let's start with, what do you believe is the worst?
Worst ability. Teleport.
Obviously. Teleport's fucking awful.
I hate teleport. Like, just... You don't get to decide where you go. You teleport someone randomly, and so many times I teleport next to somebody, and they have, like, an explosive weapon, and they just pop me.
The idea is like, oh, well, you can just teleport quickly out of range so you don't die, but it's like, there's so many better abilities for that, and again, you just teleport randomly and end up dying probably somewhere else.
Yeah, it's just not reliable.
What's the next worst?
Static Field.
Static Field's just a worse version of Katana, isn't it?
Yeah, if you use Static Field, I think you are a weenie.
Ooh.
Don't use the Sea Bear Circle. Use your sword. Like, it is dependent on you being on the ground. It's got a super long cooldown, and frankly, the iframes from it, you don't get as many from Katana, but you can still utilize it, and you can't aim your deflections with stack field.
And there's also the massive negative of, even if you stack field and you try to save yourself, well, once the stack field's over, you just get killed.
It's very awkward. There's Cloak. I think Cloak's 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an okay escape, but like 4 seconds of invisibility to like try to slip out somewhere. It's okay. It's just.
And enemies, again, usually just burst you. It's very common for enemies just to instantly kill you, so. What are you going to do? Cloak and die?
That's my favorite TF2 item.
Oh. Next?
Landmine.
I think landmine.
Landmine. Yeah. Solely because landmines don't typically do enough damage to kill somebody. It's not like Strike Force Heroes bouncing Bettys where they'll absolutely nuke you.
And everyone around you.
Yeah, it's like landmines, I think they do like half health. From my experience, it's like they haven't even gotten past my armor if I have armor up.
And again, because they're burst, the game's very bursty. Most of the time, enemies don't usually have only low health. They usually have full health, and they just step on it and nothing happens.
And why I think it's above grenade is like, you can't control landmines. They might hit somebody like who's high health, not finish them off, or somebody who just respawned and walked over it. With grenades, you have the option of where you throw it.
So yeah, grenades to be next, and yeah it's basically just a landmine, but you can control it, which makes it better.
Yeah, overall, I think even though you're not going to have a bunch of grenades on the field, I think it's superior to landmine from the sheer just convenience of it.
All right, next, emergency heal.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Emergency heal's good. It's just that you have a lot of error. If you have map control, you're going to be able to get heals and shield regardless. And a lot of these things supply things you don't get regardless.
And it's it's the issue of the game's very bursty. So emergency heal, you're likely not going to be able to save yourself, but it can heal allies. And I mean, if you get out of a fight and you have like full armor and stuff, you're fairly low. I mean, it does give you a better chance to survive. So again, it's good. Next, resupply.
Resupply is really good. I'm so glad it's a starting thing. It has a super long range charge, which is a drawback. But being able to pick up your weapon and then fill it without having to run around and look for a duplicate is just so handy because it lets you have so much map control.
Rocket launchers and rockets in general are the best weapons in the game, and being able to give yourself 6 extra shots, that's around 3 to 6 more kills. That's just really good. And lastly, of course, number 1, Katana.
Before anybody calls me a weeb, I'm more of a mace guy myself.
So I think Katana's biggest advantage other than deflecting shots is, as we've talked about many times before, the biggest weakness of your character is that when they get close, they burst you down. Yeah. The Katana makes it even. So shotguns become way more viable if you run up to them, shoot them, than Katana them. It will kill them because it does like half their health.
And if you time against bots pretty well, you can even deflect hit scan at some points just because you're anticipating their shot instead of their attack.
So in the end, Katana's probably the best weapon. Oh, and also you can reprogram mines.
Yeah, you can run over mines and just swing at them. That was hilarious to learn several years after the fact, which makes it like another upgrade on its own. There's also the fact that Katana's just stack field, but better. Like, you can use it mid-air, you can aim to deflex. It's so good. It's just, use Katana. Don't use static field.
Get some help.
Yeah.
Equipment.
Off to equipment.
The last thing we'll cover. So, defensive equipment. What's the worst one?
I'm going to go with Medipack on defensive. Because, I used Medipack all the time as a kid, but, 40 health is, nothing against most enemies.
Again, the big threats are getting bursted down, and Medipack just does not help.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Next.
Adrenaline boost. Now, despite the fact that it does stop you from getting burst down from a rocket, I've often dealt with, being picked off almost immediately after. It's really good for one-on-ones against somebody with really bursty equipment, because they usually won't switch off. but unfortunately, there's like better, more consistent options on the field.
Next.
Uh, I'm gonna go with armor plating. I'm not gonna lie, I like armor plating. I like having it with the spawn with shield. It's a nice amount of extra effective hit points, and if you have control of the map and you have armor, you become effectively tankier.
Yeah,
But
but the
in
main issue
total,
is
mathematically, like assuming armor goes up to 100, it's still not as good as say combat armor.
I think you're talking about flux capacitor on
Oh
accident.
fuck, my bad.
Yeah. No, that the flux capacitor is number 2, but armor plating is number 3. And the issue is AI doesn't go for crotch, head, or butt shots. The AI always aims for
Yeah,
your center of mass.
yeah,
They
they
never headshot you. So while it's a cool idea, especially if this is a PvP game, armor plating might be somewhat viable. But they never
armor plating
go
would
for the head.
armor plating would be like the juggernaut of Raze.
And we already talked about flux capacitor. That was supposed to be number 2.
Yeah, I'll
Oopsie
switch them
daisy.
around. Don't worry about it.
But number 1, combat armor. Combat armor is god tier. It is so good. Combat armor give you 50% max health, which means you start with 150 health. That takes you from being bursted in one shot by many weapons in the game to not being bursted in one shot by many weapons in the game. And you get it right when you spawn. Like, literally, it's a better version of Medipack. Well, Medipack can heal you for 40 health. That you just start out with 50.
Yeah, it's like immediate, and you don't have to wait it out for it. It's like,
And it always keeps your max health at 50, so you can heal back up to 150 later.
yeah.
So, utility.
Utility. Pickup booster. Yeah. Pickup booster, like in the logic of Medipack, it's like, oh, you get more health, so you're gonna like be at 150 with. Usually, you're going to get like the big health things, and you're going to like typically get full health when you pick them up because usually won't be dreadfully low. And with armor, you get a lot of armor to begin with, like
50.
And then the bigger ones give you 100. And then there's also the fact you could just get shield battery and like have 75 at lowest when you spawn in. Like all this bonus pickup stuff ends up being redundant. Because
You usually want to have the best advantage at the start. So after that, though, cooling packs.
cooling packs, yeah, I'd agree with that. Just because like a lot of the good abilities have low charge. Like it's good for refilling ammo. But
Yeah. But other than that, it's like, eh.
I don't think there's
Next
any
is,
horribly bad things in utility, honestly.
up next, we've got power extender.
I like power extender. I love that power extender. It's great for
Having
if you're
invincibility and rapid fire for longer is just great.
yeah, and the duration's already so long that it makes a dramatic difference with that 40%.
It's like 4 extra seconds.
It is really nice having that on, like when you have a power weapon and getting just being able to go full auto. Having the extra time can mean the difference between a few enemies respawning and getting another wave of wiped out enemies.
All right. Next, number 2, point allocator, which can arguably be number 1 if you're on that grind set.
Point allocator is just Golden Mauser, but better.
Because it literally applies to every weapon. So Golden Mauser, you get 2 extra points if you kill one person. Point allocator, you get 2 extra points for every person you kill.
It's just so. It's also cheaper than Golden Mauser by 50 credits. So
So it's great.
Yeah.
On your average grind run that I do, I usually kill 150 to 200 people by the end of the match in around 10 to 15 minutes. So you literally make your money back by like the second run through. And every run after
so
that,
useful.
it's just pure profit.
It's so good. I the amount I've probably gotten out of kills with a long point allocator probably got me a weapon or 2 on its own.
All right. And last but not least, shield battery.
Which is
Absolutely amazing.
it's just combat armor but in utility.
Yeah, so again, spawning with more health, so you're more likely to win fights. Because again, Raze is very snowbally. If you're able to get your power weapon and spawn and then start camping other enemies where they get their power weapons, you're golden, and this just helps you survive long enough to get to that promised land of snowballiness.
It also allows you to make a comeback against enemies with power weapons because it's gonna take them longer to kill you. It's just it's just really good universally. Which I mean,
All right.
that's utility in a nutshell, but this is probably the strongest form of it.
All right. Last, offensive equipment, which honestly I feel like might be the weakest category.
Funny enough, I think I'd agree. Yeah, because like you don't really need a lot of offensive equipment. A lot of the weapons will be able to handle themselves.
Especially the S tier weapons.
Yeah, but you don't get like defensive stuff usually unless you go with them in abilities.
All right.
Stabilizer, I think, is fifth place
Understandable.
because
Not many weapons benefit from it because most weapons that are really good are already just hyper accurate.
yeah, and like the weapons you want to compensate with stabilizer, like I've already said this with the laser minigun, I did not notice the difference. Like stabilizer, it can help, but it's not very tangible. Unlike say spiral chamber, which I think is fourth place.
Yeah.
Spiral chamber can make some of the shotguns more powerful, and unfortunately, it doesn't really seem to work on particle weapons. They seem to have the same range regardless. But like for the weapons that it does affect, that aren't like hit scan across the map, it can be that boost to raise them a tier. But it's not typically worth burning a equipment slot for.
Now, I think next is hair trigger. So hair trigger has one advantage, one drawback. Of course, faster fire rate means more DPS, and more DPS means faster times to kill,
Yeah.
which is great.
Yeah.
The problem is that weapons that benefit the most from hair trigger, which is faster fire rate, also have one major downside, which hair trigger makes worse, and that's weapon spread. So the more you fire, the more inaccurate the weapon gets, and hair trigger just makes that worse. If there is there weapon spread? I'm pretty sure there is.
Yeah. Yeah, I know there is for some weapons. Like,
I'm making sure I'm not getting silly.
uh, if there isn't, I'm sure somebody will correct us on that. But I still think hair trigger would be at best maybe
We're
second
getting
place.
a little bit senile with the other Sky9 games.
God.
All right.
Target marker, I think, is second place.
Yeah, it's second place.
Target marker is really good because it gives you a benefit that a lot of high damage weapons have for the critical hits, and it just makes stuff like the
Holy Grail one-shot shielded enemies.
yeah, it makes the Magnum just absolutely delete people. It's great.
It's weapons that already like have issues killing shielded enemies with headshots. Well, now they just can.
Yeah. This makes the difference, and you feel it. But that's great. That's brilliant. But I like this.
So extra clips is really one primary thing. It's really good, which is the rocket launcher. Again, we've established the rocket launcher as the king of all weapons. It is honestly so powerful. It should be in its own tier. S tier. It is just absolutely. Oh wait. Oh no.
You can't say that.
I can't say that. It should be in its own tier, S plus.
Anyway.
Getting 3 extra rockets, so that's around 2 to 3 extra kills, is just amazing.
I think extra clips is generally universally good though, because like getting weapons at the start and like getting your full equipment just fully loaded, that gives you so much more freedom to not run around the map to try to get more like copies of your weapon, and that can give you so much map control. It's insane. And this still becomes useful even afterwards, because if you die and you pick up a weapon that's fairly powerful like the Particle King, well, guess what? You've got full ammo for it. Go get him, champ.
The idea is that weapons that like stuff that gives you very good starting off, because again, the game's snowbally, so once you get rolling, you get rolling. And extra clips just makes your start better, just as shield better and combat armor does. So getting your start off early, making you strong as hell early, very good.
I might take target marker in certain things like Juggernaut and the last level on Alien Campaign, but I like extra clips.
Well, I think that's it then. I don't know what else we could really review about Raze 2.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
You want to review Strike Force Heroes 1 later?
Yeah, sure. That'd be cool.
All right, good. I already have the outfits.
What?